7969.
WNXX Jackson, KNXX Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21 12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. Means we're brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Fired up. You were hanging out with us as we're working towards the weekend. Lots and lots to do over the next couple of hours. Going to talk about LSU's basketball loss last night a little bit later. Joe Healey from D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team will be with us for the first of his weekly visits. We'll chat with Joe every single Thursday about what's going on in the Southeastern Conference. A couple of teams heading over to Globe Life Park, where LSU will be in a couple of Tuesdays to start their seasons with a big-time tournament. So we'll talk to Joe Healey about that. And I think, based on what I just looked at on my Twitter feed like 5 minutes ago, that South Carolina's Friday night guy might miss extended amount of time. That is not good news for Paul Maneri out there in Columbia. We'll talk baseball with Joe at 1:30. Alex Bregman's got a new deal. We got to talk about that. Luke Johnson, usually with us in hour number one. He's got some work to do. Kellen Moore just met with the media down there in New Orleans about 20 minutes ago. So Luke's got some of that to take care of, and then we'll chat with him at 2 o'clock when he's kind of gotten settled, but should be a lot of good information there from Luke. Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers at 2:15, and then we'll talk about Jay Johnson and Kade Anderson at 2:30, who will take the baseball 25 hours from right now over at the box when LSU and Purdue Fort Wayne get their season underway. But we're going to start with some football the same way we start every single day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
So there's some news hitting the internet streets, and all you got to do is head over to LSU's official website and look at the roster. Jawan Johnson is listed as a quarterback on LSU's current roster. And for all I know for sure, some intern over there at Sports Properties or at LSU Sports Information may have put the information in incorrectly. And maybe this is not real, but all indications are that it is. And if you connect some dots with LSU's current quarterback situation, it does make some sense. But here's my take on this entire situation, if in fact Jawan Johnson is moving to quarterback full-time. Yes, as of January 1st, you were looking at an LSU quarterback room that had Garrett Nussmeier returning, that had Colin Hurley returning, that had Michael Van Buren coming in from the transfer portal, and was missing A.J. Swan and Ricky Collins. So you had three scholarship quarterbacks, Nussmeier, Van Buren, Hurley. And that's light, but it's not completely out of the ordinary in this day and age where quarterbacks transfer at a rate more frequently than any position on the field in any collegiate sport. So that's light, and then Colin Hurley gets into the car accident. And he's now away from the program. He's recovering in Jacksonville at home. And you've now, as it sits today, in the middle of February, you've got two scholarship quarterbacks. Now, an NFL team would just go to the practice squad and sign one, or they'd go out and make sure they got one off the street. And you don't really have that option in college football. Like, there is another transfer portal window. Maybe you can add one there. But it may be that they're moving Jawan Johnson there to be the third quarterback. And that, on its face, makes a ton of sense because Jawan Johnson is quite literally the most productive high school quarterback in the history of Louisiana. He set state records with 14,451 yards and 171 touchdowns accounted for at Lafayette Christian. He led his team to 4 straight state title game appearances, breaking records set by Brock Berlin back in the 90s. So he makes a lot of sense. Well, who's the quarterback? How can we find a quarterback? Well, look at this guy. Nobody's been more productive at quarterback than him. And Jawan Johnson has already shown this year that he's so athletic and so adaptable, he can shift positions. Because we went out to watch fall camp all of August, and he backed up Major Burns at the Star all of August. And then, the first game of the season, boom, you get an injury to John Emery. And the next week, we find out Jawan Johnson's working at running back. And the next week, he went out against Nichols 5 days after switching positions and caught 3 passes and scored a touchdown at running back when he'd been playing defense his whole time in Baton Rouge. That is incredible. And we talked about it. And it shows how naturally gifted he is with the ball in his hand. But to me, moving from safety to running back is one thing. Moving from another position to Southeastern Conference quarterback is a whole nother one. And I believe that while, for all the reasons I laid out, this makes sense on its face, that this is a detriment to LSU's 2025 football team. Now, why do I say that? Because Jawan Johnson was a 4-star recruit, one of the top athletes in the country, and you felt like he was good enough to step in with the twos at safety immediately. And then he went to running back and looked like he could help you there. It feels to me like Jawan Johnson is a good enough football player to help LSU chase a championship in 2025. Can we all agree that LSU is attempting to chase championships in 2025? Southeastern Conference, playoff, national championships. I'm not telling you they're going to win it. Can we agree they're setting up to chase it? I think Jawan Johnson's a good enough athlete to do that at either running back or safety. I do not believe, under any circumstance, that Jawan Johnson is a good enough quarterback to lead LSU to championships. Said another way, if Garrett Nussmeier gets hurt, and Michael Van Buren gets hurt, and Colin Healey doesn't rejoin the team, and you've now got a situation where Jawan Johnson has to play quarterback, LSU's season is toast. That's how I see it. So to me, trying to fill bodies at quarterback just because you don't have enough and potentially compromising production in another position in case the worst case scenario happens is not positive for LSU. Teams on their third string quarterback, in this case, fourth string quarterback, don't chase championships. Save me the Cardale Jones example. It's a fine trump card to play. I've got a century of history that suggests it won't look like that. John Trey Kirkland was a ridiculously productive quarterback in his high school days. He threw for 7,500 yards in high school. He had a month to prepare to play quarterback against Kansas State, and until the last play of the game, he was 6 of 10 passing for 57 yards against Kansas State. Not apples to apples because LSU had half a roster, but you get the point that I'm looking at there. You watched Anquan Bolden try to go out there in the Sugar Bowl, and that's not going to work. You watched Denver, who had 4 COVID quarterbacks against the Saints, try to wide receiver out there, and it didn't work. When you get that many quarterbacks hurt, your season is cooked. So trying to mitigate those losses with a body, to me, doesn't help. Now, here is the counterpoint to that. I've made my stance pretty clear. I think we can all agree on that. I don't like this move. I'll be okay with it if one of these things is true. If he's actually a running back, but he's going to work at quarterback in the spring and they might put a package in for him, I'm fine with that. Perfectly fine. I wouldn't change his bio on the website for that, but that's fine. He's a great athlete. You want him to play some running back, maybe get a few snaps at the Wildcat. Great. If you think that Jawan Johnson can't help at running back, it can't help at safety, he's not good enough to help at either one of those positions. We've added people. We've added Harlem. Case, fine. Case, fine. But if there is a chance that Jawan Johnson could really help in the 2-deep at safety and or running back, and you have him as the scout team quarterback who's being called on an emergency because 3 other quarterbacks were compromised and couldn't play, that is wasting an asset to me. That's what I think. So this is one of those situations where we are speculating a little bit, but my stance on this is pretty clear. You've got an uber-talented guy who should be able to help, and if he's the third-string quarterback, in this case the fourth-string quarterback because one of your guys is not with the team, that to me is a waste. So we'll find out from Brian Kelly when he meets with the media prior to spring football, which is coming up here in a couple of weeks. And I'm sure that he'll be asked about this a significant amount. And I do not mean this at all as a slight to Jawan Johnson, who is such a dynamic player. But he falls in a line of dozens, not exaggerating, dozens of LSU players who were uber productive high school quarterbacks that really helped elsewhere. This is not even close to the whole list, but I'll just toss some out there that a lot of you are aware of. Early Doucette, Corey Webster, Reuben Randall, Kendall Beckwith, Spencer Ware, Russell Gage. The list goes on and on and on about guys who took snaps in high school but helped LSU win games at other positions because that's where their athleticism took over. Do you know how hard it is to play quarterback at a championship level? I'm not asking you if you can have Jawan Johnson go out there and beat Nichols. I'm talking about playing Alabama. I'm talking about playing Texas A&M. I'm talking about going to the playoff and playing Clemson again or Michigan. You think that it's reasonable to expect Jawan Johnson to go back there and function against that? 5-star Elite 11 quarterbacks buckle under that stuff. It's hard to do, especially when no one thought you were going to do it in college. Sure, he could have gone to Southeastern and played quarterback. This ain't Southeastern. I think he's going to help. He should help at safety or running back. That is my 2 cents on the issue. It's potentially an overreaction, but I feel like it warrants a reaction. So if you'd like to read some more of my thoughts on it, you can do so at louisianasports.net. That's our Genesis opening drive here. Genesis of BatonRouge.com. Beck, you've listened to this kind of diatribe here that I've got. I think most people see this news and they look at this and they go, oh man, look at this. We've got a guy that's super athletic. This could be really fun to sit here and watch him play quarterback for LSU. I personally don't think that's a good idea at all. But I'm curious kind of what you think about any idea that you could have Jawan Johnson, who is a high school quarterback, show up and try to play quarterback for LSU in an emergency. I think that sounds like a disaster.
Yeah, it does. And I know we talked about Jawan Johnson a little bit last year, and I got to see him play in high school, and he is an incredible athlete, as everyone has seen him in action. You can tell he's a really good athlete. But he didn't really show much in the way of being a quarterback capable of diagnosing defenses and breaking down just different situations. So I agree with you. I don't see how having him in the quarterback room is going to help your team overall. I think he'd be much more helpful playing defensive back or running back.
All right, agreed. I feel like I might be in the minority on this, but
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, he had his stats are impressive from high school, but we have seen plenty of guys that have been able to rack up stats in high school playing quarterback or running back, and it's not necessarily if you watch the film, they're not throwing 20-yard ins or outs. Like they're not making these incredible throws. Not to say that he can't make good throws, but he if you watch his highlights, he wasn't really making
he wasn't
throws
playing for the pocket.
Yeah, exactly. He wasn't making plays that make you think this guy could be a quarterback in the SEC.
We'll see. Brian Kelly will probably talk about it coming up when spring practice begins. All right, let's take a timeout. We still got to talk some baseball. We'll do that with Joe Healey coming up in 15 minutes. Chris Blair is going to be with us as well. We'll have some sound from Kellen Moore potentially, and we'll talk with Luke Johnson. Lots of that coming up on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
There it is, the extra mile. on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Chugging right along here, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're presented by Rouse's Markets. We are squarely in king cake season, carnival season, if you will, but king cake season in this instance. Rouse's has got you covered for all your king cake needs. If you got one that you want to bring out to a parade, bring to a Mardi Gras party or a ball, or just want to have it on the kitchen counter or at the office, Rouse's has got you covered. Walk in any of their locations, and generally right at the front. Certainly Burbank and Lee, where I spend a lot of time, was there yesterday. They got king cakes for days right when you walk in. They've got the cinnamon traditional right there on the left. On the right, they've got all your flavored options. I like the flavored options, strawberry, blueberry, cream cheese, whatever the case may be. I enjoy that more. I like a traditional cinnamon, but I'm a flavor guy. They got you covered there. They're going to make 600,000 of these things during carnival season. Go get you one at Rouse's, wherever is your local location. Rouse's, where it feels like home. LSU basketball did not win last night. They lost 70-58 in Bud Walton Arena. Victorious Miller hit a 3 right before halftime. Nice set that LSU drew up out of a timeout, buried it, and he took a halftime lead. But then the offense was completely anemic in the second half. You only scored 23 points after intermission. Arkansas outscored LSU by 13 in that instance and won the game by 12 to drop LSU to 1-10 in Southeastern Conference play. I'm not going to go too deep into the weeds here. I will say, if you watched this game, and I'm sure a lot of you did not, but if you watched this game, Robert Miller was better in this game than he has been at any point at all this season. Like, better in this game than any point during the non-conference. They were throwing the ball down on the block to Robert Miller, who's been pretty much MIA all season. He generally would play 5-6 minutes, get 2 rebounds, have a foul, 0 for 1 from the floor or something. He was going to work on the block on a front court for Arkansas that's in the top 10 in the country in block percentage. And he was just getting his buckets. He was going off the glass, getting to the rim, using pump fakes. His footwork was good. I'm sitting there watching this going, where did this come from? It was completely out of nowhere. I cover this team probably closer than anybody at this radio station. I don't even think that's a stretch in any way, shape, or form. And that may be a detriment to this show, quite frankly. But I can't help it. And I've watched him all year. He hasn't really done anything. And he was just in the zone last night. Nobody else was any good at all. Nobody else was any good at all. Jordan Sears, Jai Bailey, and Cam Carter combined to shoot 6 for 23 from the floor. That is 26%. LSU, as you well know, has no chance when those three guys do that. LSU, who got to the free throw line 28 times against Arkansas in the first matchup, made 26 of them in a win, got to the free throw line 6 times total last night and missed half of them. They did take care of the ball better. They only turned it over 9 times, but in doing so, they got a lot more shots and couldn't make them. They were 39% from the floor and 25% from three-point range. And that 25% from three-point range, oh, by the way, Cam Carter made 3 of LSU's 5. The rest of the roster was 2 of 13 from the three-point line outside of Cam Carter. Just no rhythm, no flow to the offense in the second half whatsoever. It was a little bit puzzling that after a decent first half. Well, I shouldn't say. He was out there early in the first half, made a 3, and then Victorious Miller in the second half just kind of blah. Like he played 10 minutes. No, sorry. He played well. What I meant to say was he played well. He didn't play as much as I thought he would play. He was 3 of 4 from the floor in the second half. He made a 3 right before halftime, but he only played 10 minutes in the second half. LSU went with the veteran guards, and they didn't necessarily do a heck of a lot. Miller's not a great defender. I get that, but didn't play as much as I would have liked to have seen. Outside of Robert Miller in the second half, LSU was 5 of 20 from the floor. Just nothing offensively. And then we told you yesterday in the brief 3 minutes that I did on this team in this game yesterday, that Zvonimir Ivisic, Big Z. Zvonimir, whatever. Ivisic. I knew I was saying that wrong because they didn't put the R on the box score. I was like, that is not what I remembered. But I'm going off the box score. It's as good as I can do. Zvonimir Ivisic, he's been great for them since Boogie Fland went down. And Boogie Fland is a point guard, and Big Z is a 5. But they've kind of run through him, and he was awesome last night. 10 of 13 from the floor, 3 of 5 from three-point range at 7'2". He scored 25 points in the game and kind of dominated the scoring for Arkansas. They only had 3 guys in double figures in the game. John L. Davis had 11 and DJ Wagner had 10, but Big Z was awesome. And what really hurt LSU was at one stretch in the game, LSU completely went in the deep freeze for 4 minutes. And when that happened, Arkansas was in the middle of a heater that was when they hit 8 of 9 shots, and LSU never recovered from that. The Tigers fell behind by 8 and cut it to 6 at one point, but it was basically living around 10 from there on out, and there's just nothing LSU could do to get anything going on the offensive end of the floor. So it was a game that was predictable and that LSU probably wasn't going on the road to win, but you had beaten Arkansas previously, and you did play a good first half, but LSU they don't have 40 minutes of basketball in them at this point. They had 37 on Saturday. They had about 10 the week before that on a Wednesday night, and then against Texas they had none. And you don't really have a second punch to throw here. Like, you got a season best game from Robert Miller, and the rest of the team stunk. In the same way that against Ole Miss, you played 37 good minutes and played 3 terrible ones, and they're just not good enough to get over that hump. It's a brutally hard league. Arkansas is not great, but they're playing better. They've now won 4 of their last 6, and LSU just kind of looks like a team without a rudder at this point, and that's how you get to a 1-10 record. I was talking earlier today about this basketball team, and I'll just go big picture briefly, and we'll put basketball in the rearview mirror for today. But it's unacceptable for LSU to be 1-10. Like, that's not an acceptable output on a campus that has the women's basketball team in the top 5, and the softball team in the top 10, and the baseball team in the top 5, and the football team in preseason top 10s. And, gymnastics winning a national championship, and women's golf having the best player in the country. And this athletic department is thriving, and LSU's basketball program is not. And there are reasons for that. Some are LSU's fault, some are not. But this team beat Florida State, who's very much middle of the pack in the ACC, and beat Kansas State on the road soundly, who's very much middle of the pack in the Big 12. You couple, well, I shouldn't say couple because it's more than two, but you group in the fact that LSU is playing without two guys they were supposed to count on and is playing in the hardest league they've ever played in, and you get this product that is significantly worse than the rest of the SEC. And the only way to fix it is to care more. And I don't know what makes that happen. I don't know who to go to force that to happen. But right now, it's kind of the stepchild of the athletic program, and that's evident when you watch and you go into the PMAC for the games. And that breaks my heart because y'all know how much I like LSU's basketball program. And there are lots of you who are listening to me who cannot wait to get to my LSU baseball segment today. And we're locked in as I was talking about Jawan Johnson and the football program in the last segment. But I go to basketball and you're just like, ugh, when does this end? And I get it. But that's the point. Like, it feels like everyone feels that way. And when that's the case, this is what you get. And it was just another dismal performance last night in the second half that led to another win. The losing streak is now 7 in a row. And you play Oklahoma on Saturday on the road. They're playing better. Then you got South Carolina at home. And if you don't win that one, you're staring right down the barrel of 1-15. And that would be last because South Carolina would have the tiebreaker over you even if they didn't win another game. So that's where LSU is right now. And last night was not all that fun to watch. It's another 8 o'clock tip-off. Can we please throw a 6 o'clock tip at them at some point? Would be much appreciated. It's not coming next week either. But Tigers lose in Fayetteville. Let's talk a little baseball. Joe Healey, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team, going to join us when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is that website. I know a lot of you don't love the idea of going to a car dealership. You feel like it's a pressure environment. You're getting upsold. You're not getting the honest treatment that you deserve. I understand that. Decades of that stereotype perpetuating itself have led to this. But you don't have to go to the dealership at Genesis Baton Rouge. If you do, it's a phenomenal experience. The facility is first class. The staff is exceptional. But you don't have to go. You can do your shopping online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. They've got pictures of every single car that's on the lot. And once you decide what you might want to get behind the wheel of, you contact Genesis of Baton Rouge. They come to you at the house, at the office, wherever the case may be. You get behind the wheel, go for a test drive with one of their brand ambassadors around the home or the office. If you decide that's what you want, e-contracts, delivery, it's all yours. And with that new purchase, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, because that's just the way they do business at Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're on airline at PQ. If you want to go, I highly recommend it. But if not, they're online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Savor game day platters and snacks, plus drink specials at 1717 Kitchen and Cocktail. So come out for game day and let our team make you the MVP. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like Vans.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Reminder, I'll be at Alec Box Stadium tomorrow. Different time on tomorrow's schedule. Noon to 2 for the Hunt Palmer Show tomorrow, as LSU and Purdue Fort Wayne will do battle at 2 o'clock. So that means our schedule for tomorrow off the bench will be their normal 7 to 10. Then you'll have live at lunch from Rufino's from 10 to noon, up to their Football Friday kind of schedule, or their start time at least. And then I will come on from just outside Alec Box Stadium from noon to 2. 2 o'clock first pitch. Matt will be on with AFR during the game from 2 until 6, a 4-hour edition of After Further Review. All season long. Last year we had our guy Joe Healey on 2 years ago as well, and happy to do it for a third year in a row. Of course, Joe with the team over there at SEC Extra with D1 Baseball. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Joe, there may be some folks in the Southeastern Conference casually late to baseball this year because they're maybe chasing the Final Four in basketball. The Tigers are 1-10, so you have our full attention in this market if you were curious.
You beat me to it. I was just gonna make a joke about you don't want to talk about men's basketball. You can do that too if you want, but not a moment too soon on the baseball front.
It'll be packed tomorrow. They're really excited for some baseball down here. And I want to talk about LSU a little bit, but I'd also like to kind of dance around the SEC as we get into opening weekend. A couple teams taking on some real challenges this weekend. But let's talk big picture with some of the perennial heavyweights in the Southeastern Conference. And we start with Tennessee, the national champs, the defending national champs. We know Blake Burke is gone. We know that Christian Moore is gone. Do you feel like Tony Vitello has restocked the shelves there in Knoxville and they should have a team that can chase another title, or is there potential step back like the last three national champs have done?
Yeah, there's a potential for a step back, but we tentatively are pretty bullish on them. There are two teams in the rankings. One is Tennessee, one is LSU, where if it weren't for the fact that they didn't have the names they have on the front of the jersey, if they didn't have proven head coaches in the dugout, we'd probably have them ranked a little bit lower. But there's just a belief that, with Tennessee in particular, guys go there and they just get better. Like, they bring in transfers that are superstars. They have guys in the roster, whether this year it's Dalton Bargo or Reese Chapman or take your pick. They're probably going to have some guy who's been on the roster who hasn't really stood out, who all of a sudden becomes a all-SEC type of player. And pitching-wise, Frank Anderson might be the best in the business in terms of getting the most out of the pitchers they have there. So not everything has gone swimmingly. They've got some injury concerns. A.J. Russell is in that group of folks that have some injury stuff going on. But we just have a high level of confidence they're going to figure it out. I think Dean Curley is maybe a guy that's poised for their step. Can he become maybe an SEC Player of the Year type of guy? Andrew Fisher, who's on his third team in 3 years, but like the guy mercenary he might be, the dude produces. So like he's probably good for 20 home runs. So I think they'll get it figured out. I do have more questions on the mound, if I'm honest. I like Liam Doyle at the front. I think he was probably undervalued last year at Ole Miss because the ERA is not great, but his peripherals were great. Beyond that, though, a lot of questions there. But again, in Frank Anderson, I trust in terms of figuring it out on the mound. So we're just going to roll with it until we find out otherwise.
Speaking of figuring out on the mound, Arkansas always dead that. It's generally a matter of can they hit well enough. What do you think about Dave Van Horn's team this year?
Yeah, it's funny. In the offseason, we've talked so much about Arkansas's offensive struggles, not just you and I, but everybody I talk to that brings up Arkansas. And, they go into the portal and it feels like their fan base is screaming, can we please get a slugger? And then Arkansas's coaching staff is like, can we interest you in another left-hander? Because they just kept bringing in portal pitchers. And look, the talent on the mound is absurd. Like I think it's probably the deepest pitching staff in the country in terms of guys who have done it at a high level. But then you look at the offense, and look, I like this group better. I like Brent Iredale, the Australian kid who's a JUCO transfer. A fully healthy Kendall Diggs, I think, is a big deal. I've gotten lots of good reports on Vahiva Aloy, their shortstop, who put up good numbers last year. So I do like this group better. But then you stack it up against so many of the other teams that we think are going to be elite in the SEC, and you kind of look at it and you shrug. So, look, the formula can be, if their pitching staff is as good as we think it could be, and their offense is middle of the pack in the SEC as opposed to, 13, 14, 15, that can be an Omaha team that could challenge for a national title. But if they have injuries on the mound, if some guys just don't, make the step up to the SEC as well as we think they might on the mound, and then the offense is just kind of what it typically is, or at least has been the last few years, they are susceptible, I think, to just kind of being a team that's been where Arkansas has been the last couple of years, which is they look great at times when the pitching is going well, but the minute the pitching sags a little bit, you start to look around and wonder how else this team can win games.
I saw a little piece on the Athletic earlier this week that polled 10 current college baseball coaches, and they were asking for the best arm in the country. Gabe Gackle got 2 votes, and then Root, the transfer in, got a vote as well. So 2 different Arkansas pitchers were thought of as maybe the best in the country, which is not uncommon for what Dave Van Horn does up there in Fayetteville. I'm springing this on you a little bit, and I'm not sure if this has crossed your radar, but I don't think it's too deep for you to dive into. I just saw on Twitter that maybe Caden Sorrell over at Texas A&M might miss some time, and then Eli Jersenbeck from South Carolina, where Paul Maneri will start his tenure tomorrow, could miss extended time as well. Either of those significant for those 2 teams?
Jersenbeck for sure, because when you look at South Carolina's team, and this has largely been true even the last couple of years with Kingston, you look around and it's like, okay, there's some nice depth pieces on the mound. And oh, by the way, I still think that's true for this team, but they don't really have a dude that you can put on a Friday and say, hey, let's go out there and beat Ryan Prager, for example. Yeah. Like they don't have that guy. Jersenbeck could have been that guy. When he was a freshman 2 years ago, his first 30 innings or whatever it was before he got hurt were borderline electric. It's a fast arm. It's an elite fastball metric. The breaking stuff was coming along. Like he just checked every box. And so to not have him is a huge blow for South Carolina. And I don't mean to be overly worried about it necessarily at this point because we just have so much baseball to play. But I worry a little bit. And I know there's still a lot of folks down where you are that still have a lot of affection for Paul Maneri, even if maybe it just ran its course at the end. I worry a little bit that there's a chance the bottom really falls out of it at South Carolina this year, and it ends up being a situation where he takes on more blame than maybe he deserves, and then the fan base just never buys into it because there already was a decent amount of skepticism about that hire. And so I worry about that a little bit. And I think this Jersenbeck injury could really play into that. Sorrell, nice player. I think a lot of people thought he could have a breakout year, but man, that A&M roster is just so deep that, yes, it would be nice to have him, but I don't think it's necessarily going to throw them off course.
Well, this is a big year for Ole Miss, obviously. They've not been very good the last couple of years, and they're not exactly easing into it. They'll be at the Shriners Children's College Showdown in Arlington. They'll play number 21 Arizona tomorrow. They'll play number 19 Texas on Saturday. They'll play number 15 Clemson on Sunday. I saw, this is rare for me because I'm not nearly as into the weeds as you are in January and February. I recognized all 3 of the announced starters for Ole Miss. And on one hand, I went, well, that means that these are seniors who were not drafted, but it also means they're very experienced. Where do you land on Ole Miss starting 3 seniors who have been around for a while on their first weekend?
Dude, when I tell you, yeah, I am in the weeds, and then when I saw that, I was like, huh. Like these are 3 guys who have been around, and I guess intellectually I knew that they were all still on the roster, but to see them boom, boom, boom with Hunter Elliott and Riley Maddox and then Mason Nichols was just kind of jarring. So, but I think you've hit on something here that I think is the exact point about Ole Miss. If they are a postseason team again, or this year as opposed to the last 2, it's going to be because that rotation turns out to just be really, really good. It's not the sexiest rotation, like Mason Nichols and Riley Maddox, their stuff is just fine. Hunter Elliott's obviously a little bit better. We saw him pitch in Omaha as a freshman. Like there's a little more high end there, but if those 3 guys are just what you'd want out of senior pitchers, I do think that could lead Ole Miss to being in a situation where they make the postseason again, but they're going to have to be that good. They've got some younger arms that are promising, but, if you look at Ole Miss the last couple of years, one of the kind of original sins that's put them in this rut is just they've really struggled with pitching development, in terms of guys that were dudes or thought were going to be dudes as freshmen and sophomores just don't necessarily make the leap. And we'll have to see if this ends up being the case with Maddox and Nichols in particular, because they're asking them to do things they haven't done, which is be real guys for them. And Elliott's just kind of more about, is he the same guy we saw 3 years ago? And we won't know that until we get into the teeth of it. So I am more optimistic about Ole Miss than I was last year, but I still have to be honest, I still have a hard time seeing this being a regional team. I'd love to be wrong about it because it'd be a cool story, but I just struggle a little bit with seeing it right now.
Forgive me because I listened to the first 2 legs of the D1 Baseball podcast. One, you had one of them, and one, Runes had one. It was Bianco and Schlossnagel. I can't remember which one was which, but I did listen to both. Schlossnagel seemed to kind of downplay the talent, especially in the pitching staff. He got A&M figured out real quick, and they got to Omaha and made some damage. But did it sound to you, if you heard that, or if that was your interview, that it felt like he was maybe downplaying the talent level with the Longhorns this year?
Yeah, that was my interview, and I kind of got the same vibe, and it's just so hard to tell if that's sandbagging or if there's something real there. I will say I like the floor a lot because the position player group is really, really good. I think the coaching staff did a nice job for whatever criticism you want to hurl at Jim Schlossnagel, and there's a lot of valid ones based on what happened in the offseason. But like the dude wins and the dude puts good rosters together, and the fact that those players stuck around, I think, is a testament to them understanding like, oh, this is Texas, and now we have a proven head coach who is just coming off of leading A&M to what's one game of a national title. So the position player group is so good that I do think it controls their floor a little bit. I have a hard time imagining that thing bottoming out or being kind of shaken a little bit. But yeah, the pitching is where I'm kind of interested because they're leaning on a guy like Luke Harrison, who has been hurt the last 2 years, and Ruger Riojas is going to be one of their most important relievers, and he was a nice pitcher at UTSA. Like that's kind of he wasn't like a prospect or someone who people thought like, oh, this is an SEC level guy necessarily. So they are, kind of working with some new pieces there. Jared Spencer, the transfer from Indiana State, who's had his own injury problems. So it's not really the pitching staff you'd probably want to be going into the SEC with, but again, like until I find out otherwise, I'm going to assume they're going to get something out of it. It just might be the kind of season in Austin where A, they're going to have to win their fair share of 9-7 games, and then B, it wouldn't shock me if, they're that team that plays 4-hour games with 6 pitchers per game and, 12 different guys start a weekend game at some point. It really wouldn't shock me if that's the case.
That was Jay Johnson's first year in Baton Rouge. He had a lot of really good hitters, and they had about 4 pitchers they trusted, and that's kind of how they tried to operate. I know you're going to watch a ton of baseball this weekend, but you can't watch every single pitch, obviously. When you pull up the LSU box scores on Sunday night, what are 1 or 2 things you're going to be looking for from LSU this weekend?
Well, I think the first thing is you want to see the pitching staff, which I'm bullish on, by the way, like with the starting rotation, even though they're not SEC battle tested quite yet. I want to see them kind of cruise through these lineups. You can only gain so much from the level of competition they're playing, But I want to see them be healthy, be efficient, because you really got nothing to lose in these games, right? Like, those offenses can't really hurt you. I hope these aren't famous last words. Those offenses really can't hurt you in a way with the stuff they have there. So go attack, be efficient, like try to maximize the number of innings you get to throw, because obviously we know pitch counts this early in the season are going to be a thing. So that's one. And then two, where does the help for Jared Jones come from? I think it's going to come. Like, obviously Stephen Milam's coming off a great year. I think Danny Dickinson, really high, dude can really hit. So we can go on, but we know what we're going to get with Jared Jones. Who is the second fiddle guy there? Is it another step from Stephen Milam? Is it an incoming transfer? Is it a Jake Brown who's coming back and trying to do a little bit more? Obviously, they're not going to see SEC level pitching this weekend, but does someone emerge and do something that we maybe haven't seen them do that maybe sets the table for, here's the guy who's going to be alongside Jared Jones being an all-SEC type of hitter?
You're looking for your baseball content, the written word there at D1Baseball.com's SEC Extra Package. And, of course, Highway to Hoover with Joe Healey and Mark Etheridge. He'll be with us every single Thursday moving forward. Joe, enjoy the baseball tomorrow. We'll talk next week. Thanks.
Yep, thanks, Hunt. See you.
He is Joe Healey. I always enjoy those conversations. I know that, it's baseball, kind of unlike football and basketball. A lot of fans go in pretty blind to what everyone else is doing. I think everybody that's an LSU fan really has a handle on what LSU is doing because we cover it so extensively in the fall and now in the preseason. But I like to kind of sprinkle some things here and there with the rest of the conference because I expect LSU to compete towards the top of it, and we kind of talked about some of the teams there that should be in the same mix. So we'll see how things shake out over the weekend for a lot of teams in the SEC. I'm very interested to see how Ole Miss gets off to in their start here because Mike Bianco needs things to go well this year in Oxford. We'll come back and close out the hour with a Rich Tiger on Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com. Just got a text within the last 20 minutes from a fellow Baton Rouge media member. Said, I need Mitchell Fisher's cell phone number because we got to get something done at the house. And I, of course, obliged with Mitchell Fisher's cell phone number because it's a phenomenal company to work with. It's a local company, and the customer service is second to none. If you want Mitchell Fisher's cell phone number, here it is, 225-439-7920. 225-439-7920. He's the owner of the company. He's your point person. He's right there on the picture on the website that Cassie's scrolling through right there. And for us, when it was to putting in our security system and handling all of our televisions and the wiring, Mitchell was there with his team the entire time. And if we ever have any issues, we know who to text. It's a phenomenal organization, and the customer service is truly second to none. You can do big business with the big box stores, or you can do business with someone local who's going to be able to be available for you. It's Audio Video Security Solutions. You can check them out online at avssla.com, on Instagram at avss_BR. That's Audio Video Security Solutions.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
When it comes to choosing energy for your family and your home, make the smart choice with natural gas. You can count on efficient and affordable natural gas to keep you comfortable and reduce your...
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Closing up hour number 1 here, brought to you by Rouse's Markets. We're back at Rouse's Markets the spring of last year. It was the spring of last year, and Alex Bregman was debuting his line of hot sauces and seasonings. And he can keep doing that if he wants, but he didn't really have to because he signed a contract that could be worth $120 million over the next 3 years. A lot of that money is deferred by the Boston Red Sox, and there are opt-outs involved. So we'll see how long he plays in Boston. But his time as an Astro for now is very much done. And I think that is emotional, I think, for a lot of you LSU fans that are big Astros fans as well. What a cool thing for one of the great players in LSU history to be the second pick in the draft by the Astros and then get up to the MLB as quickly as he did and then be a part of 2 world championship teams. I think a lot of folks may not realize this. Alex Bregman has the most postseason home runs by a third baseman in the history of Major League Baseball. That's loud. I know we've got more rounds now, but still, those are high leverage spots against really good pitchers, and Bregman has delivered time and time and time again.
It also helps that he's played 99
that
playoff
helps a lot.
games.
That helps a lot. But nobody says that Derek Jeter is a fraud or that Yogi Berra is a fraud because they got to play in a lot of postseason games. That's true. That Andy Pettitte guy, pretty good as well.
Yep.
Got to play in a lot of playoff games. And look, Bregman has done that. The run that Houston has gone on in terms of reaching ALCSs has been incredible. And he's been right there in the middle of it as you've had Correa and Springer move on, and he and Altuve have been there. And you had, Verlander there, and then he wasn't, and then he was. And it's been an amazing run for the Houston Astros and for Alex Bregman. And when you take a player that early in the draft, you hope they blossom into a superstar. And Bregman was absolutely a star in his time in Houston. He's 31 years old, and the Astros kind of made it known that they were going to go in a different direction. That's why they didn't make an effort to re-sign him, really, and they traded away Kyle Tucker, who's probably their best player, to the Cubs. They were ready to reset this whole thing, and Bregman had his opportunities and chose Boston. So I talked about it yesterday on the show. Like, I wasn't wild about the Cubs spending $140 million, not because I don't think Alex Bregman is worth $140 million, because I know what the Cubs ownership group is about, and I know that if they spend that on Alex Bregman, they're really not going to spend anything else on anybody else. So I was a little hesitant, but I'm thrilled for Alex, and he gets a chance to play for an iconic organization in a ballpark that's a perfect fit for him. He just leaves one place with a very short left field porch and moves to another place with a very short left field porch. He's got monster numbers in his career in Fenway Park, and that should continue. I don't know if he's going to play third or if they're going to leave Rafael Devers there and they're going to move him to second.
I think I saw that reports are that he will be playing second.
But he's a guy that just won his first Gold Glove. There hasn't been a significant drop-off offensively for him there. What he's like at 32, 33, 34 at the end of this deal remains to be seen, but I think it's great for him. It's a great opportunity at a great organization, and I know there's a lot of people down here in South Louisiana and in the Houston area who loved watching Alex Bregman in Baton Rouge, have loved watching him in Houston, and are sad that time is up. But all good things generally come to an end, either when Father Time wins or the purse strings of the ownership wins, and in this case it was the latter. And you wish Alex the best. It's awesome for him. He can now get ready for spring training. I was curious how long it was going to go, but this is where that merry-go-round stops, so he'll head to Florida in spring training with Boston, and the Astros will reset and try to figure something else out as they move forward. So congrats to Alex Bregman. Awesome run in Houston. Pair of World Series championships, another huge payday for him, and also an incredible ambassador for LSU as well. So hat tip to Bregs for that signature. All right, that's it for hour number 1. If you missed anything, catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, you can always find us. I open things up talking about Jawan Johnson and his move to quarterback. Good thing, not so good thing. You can find that at Hunt on LSU on YouTube, wherever you find your podcast. LSU Hoops loses. Joe Healey talks SEC baseball. A lot to do in hour number 2 as well. Luke Johnson when we come back from Sports Center talking Kellen Moore presser, Chris Blair, and Kade Anderson. All that coming up on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioneer Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
Sports Center.
I'm Doug Brown. The Jets make it official today. Aaron Rodgers is out after 2 years with the team. Rodgers met with team officials last week to get the news. Rodgers hasn't said if he wants to keep playing. If he does, he likely wouldn't be able to sign with another team until at least March 13th. There are now 16 teams in the SEC. In this week's college basketball top 25, there are 9 SEC teams. And as of right now, ESPN bracketologist Joe Lunardi has 13 SEC teams in the tournament field. ESPN's Jay Billis.
It's the best basketball conference top to bottom relative to the field that we have ever seen. They put up numbers that compare favorably to the mid-'80s in the ACC, but people forget the ACC had 8 teams back then. It's a lot easier to have 8 good teams than it is to have 16.
Jay Billis on Get Up on Saturday at 4 Eastern on ESPN. Number 2 Alabama hosts number 1 Auburn. The third-ranked team this week is also from the SEC, the Florida Gators.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy, coming up Friday. Their season ended in disappointment again, so what can the Bills do this offseason to get them to Super Bowl 60? It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Markets, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints, who have a new head coach officially. Kellen Moore meeting with the assembled media down there in the 504. It's the new head man of the black and gold. Luke Johnson covers the Saints for The Advocate, joins us on Thursdays. Good enough to give us a little time on a bit of a hectic day. Luke, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
It is always our pleasure. I have seen some quotes from Kellen Moore's press conference, but I have not heard or seen anything that he had to say. So I'm curious your thoughts on his overall demeanor as he took to the mic today.
Yeah, I think he was probably a little bit nervous to start, right? He was a fast talker to start this thing out. But, good thing for Kellen Moore is he got a lot of practice. I think there were 65 questions asked in his press conference today that lasted about 37 minutes. I think that, look, he's not here to win press conferences, right? I don't think that's going to be what he is. There's no Dan Campbell biting kneecaps moment. There's no awkward Duval moment from Liam Cohen's press conference in Jacksonville. It was just pretty straightforward today. Not really a lot of clear answers on stuff, which I don't think anybody was really expecting. Because he's been the head coach for like 24 hours. They've got a lot of decisions to make in the next month before the start of free agency. Again, a lot of decisions to make in the next couple of weeks before the start of the combine. They're going to need a staff. So I think he has like a general vision for what he wants this to be. I think he probably knows more than he let on today. But we weren't given a whole lot of clarity on a lot of that stuff.
Let's talk about staff first. I want to get to Derek Carr, obviously, a little bit later. But as far as the staff goes, did he give any hints as to what he's kind of looking for? He, of course, is very young. This is his first time. He's an offensive guy. What did you get from that?
Yeah, I kind of asked him straight up, like, hey, as a young first-time head coach, are you going to want somebody with head coaching experience on your staff? Somebody you can kind of lean on for that. And he was like, yes, that will be represented on our staff. Whether that means it's Brandon Staley, the former head coach of the Chargers, who's kind of been heavily rumored to be the favorite for the defensive coordinator job, or whether that means it's somebody who has spent a long time in the NFL, is no longer a head coach or a coordinator, who can come in as like a sort of advisory role. Either way, I think that's going to be part of his staff. I think he made that pretty clear today. And I think that's smart. Sean McVay was like 32 years old when he started as a head coach. He had very little offensive coordinator experience. And, one of the most important hires he made was Wade Phillips as a defensive coordinator. He got decades of NFL experience, who's been in the head coach seat multiple times and who knows how everything goes. And I expect we'll see some of that on the staff. And I expect, he said they're going to go through a quote unquote true process, looking to fill out their staff, interviewing lots of guys. But the combine's in 2 weeks. So I would expect at the very least the defensive coordinator hire will be made before that, just so they know what kind of players they're looking for.
Did he talk about what he is planning on doing with the offensive staff, specifically him calling plays?
Yes, he did say he will call plays, which is, it is to be expected, but it was good to know that he's cool just saying that he will do that. So, that's going to kind of, in a way, limit his offensive coordinator hire, right? Because he's not going to be hiring somebody who's going to be calling plays who can then, I mean, when you're the offensive coordinator and you're not calling plays, your likelihood of turning that into a head coach job is smaller, which, it makes sense that Doug Nussmeier is somebody who's been connected to him. It's somebody he's coached with a lot throughout his career. And, it's somebody who, he's getting who would get a bump in title, but not necessarily be, considered that kind of hotshot offensive coordinator to head coach type.
And so I think that leads to Derek Carr. And I know that you're not going to get a true answer there, but you've been around that organization for a while. What's your sense on how that decision-making process is going to work?
Yeah, it was really interesting. Somebody just asked him point blank, like, is Derek Carr going to be your week one starter? and he's like, I've got a lot of respect for Derek. He's a tremendous player. He's been he's a starting player in this league, premium player. I know his journey, Fresno State to the Raiders to here. It's like, yeah, okay. Like, we don't need bio stuff.
Yep.
And he's like, yeah, I'm looking forward to working with him as we go through this process. Which, like, look, if he was hired to be the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he was asked if Trevor Lawrence is going to be his week one quarterback, he'd be like, yes, absolutely, 100%, no doubt.
Yeah.
Even though those two, I mean, if just being real, like, they've had a similar amount of success over the last couple of years. I just think the kind of non-committal answer to that, more than anything, just says Derek Carr's future is decidedly up in the air here. I don't think it's any way saying one way or another that yes, he's absolutely gone, or yes, he'll absolutely be here. I just think they're definitely considering the idea of moving on.
What do you think Derek Carr thinks? I know he's not going to tell you either, but you've been around him too.
I'm sure he's not thrilled about it. I mean, I'm sure that he's well aware of the report from Diana Rossini a couple weeks ago saying that was one of Kellen Moore's reservations about taking the job. I'm sure he's getting prepared to have to sign with another team this offseason. Or, if the Saints can work out a trade or whatever, I think he knows that, he's not set in stone as a team's quarterback. And I'm sure hearing, Kellen Moore today, kind of deliver the platitudes without like actually committing to him, just kind of cemented that for him.
Was there any discussion of expectations or state of the roster? Because obviously we've talked about that a lot.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like there was a point in the press conference where he was saying like, yeah, we intend to compete, and it's one of the things that's enticing about it is, the NFC South is kind of wide open. But at the same time he's saying that, he's like, once we build it right. So it's hard to get a real sense on what that means. We've seen a lot of teams in recent years get out of really difficult cap situations, and eat really big quarterback dead cap hits, and be really successful really quickly. Now, they were in different cap situations than the one the Saints are in, But like we've seen it with Tampa Bay after Tom Brady retired. We saw it last year with the Washington Commanders. We saw it last year with the Denver Broncos. We saw it, with the Eagles when they ate like a $50 million dead cap hit on Carson Wentz, and they drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round, and he turns into a Pro Bowl quarterback and leads into a Super Bowl title. Like, it can be done, but you have to really nail a lot of other things. And I think that's probably the roadmap they're looking at. I think if you're looking at the Saints and their history, I don't think like Mickey is going to be like, yeah, hey, new head coach, new guy, come in and let's just blow it all up.
Yeah.
I think he is the type who just wants to keep as competitive as possible. But I think there has to be some recognition within that organization that like what they've been doing hasn't worked. So that it's going to have to change a little bit. So I'm really interested to see how they do it and how they try to thread that needle, because it's an extremely thin needle to thread.
So what's next outside of coaching hires? Is the combine? Is it some roster decisions a la Taysom Hill? What's next for Kellen Moore and the Saints?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to have to assemble at least their defensive coordinator and probably a couple of his assistants in the next week and a half, like by the end of next week, because I think they're going to want that full staff in place for when they go to the combine, and have those guys explain to the scouting department what they're looking for in players, and have them on hand to interview players. That's really important. The combine starts in less than 2 weeks. And then once that happens, you kind of start heading into free agency a little bit. I think the first day of the new league year is the 15th of next month. So we're talking about a month from now, they're going to have to make a number of decisions on a number of players. Derek Carr is top of that list. He's got a roster bonus that triggers, I believe, on March 15th.
Okay.
So they're going to have to make a decision on him before then. But I wouldn't expect, just based on the Saints' history, I wouldn't expect a lot of this stuff to start happening in the next week, 2 weeks. Unless they wanted to give guys like extra time to go out and make decisions, which like they could. But I would expect March to be the time when we start seeing decisions on the future of veteran players who have big money attached to their name.
You want to read about it, you can do it at The Advocate by Luke Johnson on Twitter as well. Luke's with us every single Thursday. We'll talk next week, man. Thanks a ton.
Sounds good, buddy.
Always enjoy our conversations with Luke Johnson. A little bit of an update for LSU baseball this weekend. If you're headed out to the box course tomorrow, first pitch is at 2 o'clock. Saturday was scheduled for 1 o'clock. We know that the weather looks bad on Saturday. They have made the decision they are going to move up the first pitch on Saturday to 11 a.m. Central Time. So if you're planning on making it out for the first time Saturday because you're working tomorrow and can't be out there, 11 o'clock first pitch between LSU and Purdue Fort Wayne. It'll be streamed on the SEC Network Plus, but again, 2 hours earlier than originally scheduled. Sunday looks like a good weather day, a little bit chillier, but bright sunshine. That game's still set for 1 o'clock. So that'll all be on the LSU Sports Radio Network, the voice of the Tigers on said LSU Sports Radio Network. Coming up next, that's Chris Blair.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is that website. How's complimentary maintenance sound? Sounds awesome. It is awesome. And it's part of the deal when you buy a Genesis at Genesis of Baton Rouge. 3 years, complimentary maintenance. If you hate sitting in dealerships, dealing with the oil change, dealing with the rotation of the tires, dealing with the wiper blades, cabin air filters, all that, and it takes out your morning up, you're sitting there watching Price is Right, and you can't get on with your day, that's just not part of the deal at Genesis of Baton Rouge. It's fantastic customer service, and it's something that not everyone is willing to offer. But Genesis is. So if you buy a Genesis at Genesis of Baton Rouge, that complimentary maintenance, it can be valet maintenance as well. They get your car, they bring it to the dealership, you get a loaner, they bring it back to you when it's done. Could not be any easier. Every car that's on the lot is online at Genesis of Baton Rouge. Genesis of Baton Rouge. Genesis of Baton Rouge.
serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
LSU Sports Radio Network going to be a busy place over the next month or so. LSU baseball cranking up tomorrow. Of course, coaches shows. LSU basketball still in full swing. The ladies are in the top 5. There's a ton going on. Chris Blair is, of course, the voice of the Tigers. He joined us on Thursdays, does so now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Chris, how are you?
Oh, doing good. Nothing like a late night, early morning arrival from Fayetteville.
What did y'all do wrong to get all the 8 o'clock starts? Where are the 6 o'clock starts? They're all at 8.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's a mysterious thing they do there in Birmingham, how they set these schedules up. But we certainly didn't get any favor as far as LSU is concerned. It seems to be 7:30, 8 o'clock. So I'm super stoked about a 5 p.m. tip-off Saturday.
There you go. Last night, I got to tell you, I'm watching the game. I haven't seen that from Robert Miller all year. I mean, you saw it in the recruiting profile and the YouTube highlights, but he hasn't been that assertive or certainly productive all year. And then all of a sudden, it just kind of clicked. And it wasn't like he was playing against nobody. That's one of the better front courts defensively in the SEC. What it looked like courtside.
Yeah, no, I thought he was impressive. I mean, I think, again, as you pointed out, against Arkansas, the second leading shot blocking team in the SEC, and their front line, they've been inconsistent, obviously, with their wins and losses, but they've been pretty consistent on protecting the rim. And, that was pretty evident. Again, a tough night shooting the three for LSU, well below 30%. So, I mean, you're going to have to find some 2-point field goals. Couldn't get to the free throw line like he did in the first one, 26 of 28. So you got to get to the rim. And, I thought Robert just showed his ability to be patient, maybe let the game kind of come to him as opposed to just getting it in the post and then trying to make something in rhythm or going up too quick. I mean, he was very good, used his pivot foot, took his time, shot fakes, really handled Avicic pretty well, who is one of the leading shot blockers in the SEC. And again, 8 of 13 from the floor and career high 16 points. And I think when I look at it, comparing the two teams from the first meeting to the second meeting, I mentioned the difference. LSU had the SWAT party going in the first meeting, not so much last night. They hit 26 of 28 free throws, which was a big factor in a 4-point win, obviously a lot more than Arkansas had opportunities. But the field goal stat was the big difference. And Arkansas actually, even with the loss of Boogie Fland, who was, supposedly going to be a draft pick, he injured his hand. He's out for the season. And Arkansas kind of has tightened up their rotation. I mean, they're only playing 7 or 8 guys, and the guys are playing 32, 33-plus minutes. And I think that's where LSU wants to go. I think the problem has been the inconsistency of which are those 7 or 8. I mean, and it's a perfect example, not that it's not a good problem to have, that you have a guy like Miller who his previous high was against Texas at 9 points, suddenly now, kind of come into his own. But I think that's the problem LSU has. While I think it's important to maybe ask guys to play more minutes, and maybe lessen the substitutions, and kind of stick with a group of guys that A, can get you some points, and B, can play defense. I think LSU's still having to, substitute 11 and 12 guys into the game because there just hasn't been consistency, outside of Cam Carter, who, again, every night, the SEC, their mission is to make sure he scores, under 16 points a game, and they have been doing that here of late. But I think that's really the key to what Arkansas has done with the prominence of Avicic as well. I mean, back-to-back 7'2" guy with 20-plus points, and most of it's done from the outside.
You mentioned the 5 o'clock tip-off on Saturday. What do you know about Norman, Oklahoma? I don't know much of anything about it.
I don't know much of anything either. It'll be my first trip to Boomer Sooner country as far as, their athletic facility. So I'm sure it will be, fine for us. But we'll see. I mean, it's a team that obviously has struggled. They got slaughtered last night by a pretty good Missouri team. They still have 2 more conference wins than LSU, which is where Arkansas was last night going into that game before they got their 4th win. But I mean, this was kind of an important stretch. It's not, slouch to go to Arkansas and lose in Bud Walton Arena, although it was astonishing to me that last night was their first win in SEC play at home.
Yeah.
But, you had Arkansas, then you've got Oklahoma who has struggled, and then South Carolina who is still struggling to find their first conference win. So this next couple of games obviously are a chance to just try to get some momentum and try to get some confidence. Because now, with this losing streak continuing to go, I mean, you just wonder how long guys can keep putting up that fight. I credit them up to this point. It's not been an effort issue. It's just been the inability to score the basketball for chunks at a time. And, Arkansas took advantage of that last night.
Chatting with Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers. Of course, you can hear him on the LSU Sports Radio Network. And LSU baseball crank up tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Let's talk a little bit about that. Your reaction when you heard Kade Anderson would be the first guy for LSU. You certainly saw a good bit of him last year.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me just simply because that's kind of what Jay has said all along, that's a guy that he truly trusts. And, you want to get off to a good start and you want to look good on opening day, obviously. And Jay feels like he's been in enough battles. He's been in the foxhole with him enough that he has that type of confidence in him. So that wasn't a huge surprise. I think it's interesting that we're going to get a chance to see Chase Shores in Sunday's game 3. And, who knows what the rotation is going to be like 2 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now, 3 months from now. But I like the look of this one going into the opening weekend. I like that you want to have a guy who, in Chase Shores, that has so much upside that could really be a dominant pitcher in the SEC this year. And to start out things, he's going to be the guy you're looking for to finish up a series. That's got to be a headache for any coach coming in.
You've got Jarrett Jones, who's a star. You don't necessarily have another proven star. I feel great about Stephen Milam, and if he takes another step. But as I look out there, and Derek Curiel comes to mind, but Jake Brown, now that he's fully concentrating on offense, I feel like could be somebody that emerges. Is that a sense that you've gotten?
Yeah, I think I'm a big Jake Brown fan, and I think, again, to your point about concentrating on one thing, and again, he's super talented, not as if he couldn't be successful doing multiple things, but I think that's going to help him quite a bit this year, and I think he has the potential to be the next great guy, next big threat in the order. I look at this team coming in 2025, and I'm not comparing it, don't get me wrong here, I'm not comparing it to the 2023 team, but from a talent standpoint, it's impressive. The difference, I think, in 2023 is that you had some known commodities, to your point, especially on the offensive side. So I think that's kind of the question mark is, my goodness, the talent. Again, I think Jay's going to have a problem of who does he have in on certain days, and how does he get enough guys, both in the field and on the mound, enough work. And that's a great problem to have. It's just unknown as to which ones are going to be, the big boppers in that lineup. How will he construct that lineup? Who is he going to protect? Obviously, Bear's one that comes to mind, but how do you set that up? But I think the potential of this team, obviously, anybody who knows anything about talent knows they're absolutely loaded with it. And it's going to be exciting. That's one of the things I'm excited about this year, talking to Jay during the fall about, guys that were coming into the program that suddenly were making their names known, is that you get to see those guys become, great players, once they get to college. And, you look at a guy like Stephen Milam, who last year everybody kept saying, okay, but when does that freshman wall hit? I mean, he's so talented, he can do it all, but when does the freshman wall hit? And, I would argue that wall never came.
Yeah.
In fact, he got better as the season went along. It was kind of hard to refer to him as a true freshman, once we flipped to mid-April. And I think there's a possibility for a number of young players this year to do that, not to mention the transfers. So I can understand why the excitement and anticipation is a peak level for this year's baseball team. And it's hard to believe it all starts tomorrow at 2:00.
Sure does. I'll be on the air at noon just outside the stadium. Who's going to be in the radio booth that I can grab in to come down for a segment?
Oh, it'll be Doug and Buzzy. They'll hold things down for tomorrow's opening day. I'll be in Norman with basketball, and we play on Saturday, as you said, at 5:00, and they've moved the game up to 11:00 to dodge possible wet weather. So those two will handle things Friday and Saturday, and then hopefully we come back with a win from Norman, and I'll be sitting in the booth excited as I can be on Sunday afternoon.
I'll see you there. Y'all travel safe to Norman. Thanks, Chris.
You got it, man.
Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers. If you're just jumping in the car and missed that announcement about 25 minutes ago, Saturday's game has been moved up for LSU baseball. They will play at 11 o'clock against Purdue Fort Wayne. That was scheduled for a 1 o'clock first pitch. Now 11 o'clock, trying to dodge some showers. So still 2 o'clock tomorrow, 1 o'clock on Saturday, 11 o'clock on Saturday, 1 o'clock on Sunday for LSU baseball against Purdue Fort Wayne, the Mastodons, coming up tomorrow. Let's take a time out. When we come back, Jay Johnson named Kade Anderson his starting pitcher for opening day. We'll hear why Jay Johnson did that, and we'll hear a little bit from Kade Anderson himself. That's next on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Closet space can be a big deal. Some of the older homes that you may be living in may not have a great situation as far as the closets go. That doesn't mean you're stuck that way. You can have David Duvall and his team come in, and they can either use the space that you've got a little bit more efficiently, or they can just create a new closet for you that'll, one, be customized to your exact specifications, and two, is going to look great. It's fantastic work and craftsmanship that David Duvall and his team have done on the closet side of things. Start that process with a free consultation. That part doesn't cost anything. Go to OneBathAndClosets.com. Tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you there, and then see what they can do for you. When you get to the point of pricing, you'll understand that they've got financing options available. 18 months interest-free, same as cash if you qualify for that. It's all online at OneBathAndClosets.com. OneBathAndClosets.com.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Pretty cool interview yesterday with Kade Anderson. It resonates with me. I know it sounds ridiculous to say, but I never, ever, ever in a million years thought that I would play football at LSU. I loved going to football games at LSU, but it was never even a dream of mine to play football at LSU because I played football in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and I never thought about playing football at LSU. I never really thought about playing basketball at LSU either. But I dreamt as a young kid of playing baseball at LSU because I love baseball that much, and LSU would have been my favorite team. I dreamt of playing for the Cubs, too. Turns out none of that happened. But for some people who grow up in this state, those dreams actually do happen. And Kade Anderson talked about that yesterday, and he had a lot of things to say over the course of his 15-minute Q&A. The first was kind of what it means to be the Friday night starter on this LSU baseball team.
Yeah, it means a lot. But I think overall with this team, I think we have probably 5 Friday night starters. So it's obviously an honor to get the ball first, but definitely got to continue to work as the season goes on because my spot's not guaranteed every week. So continuing to kind of build on my starts and continue from there.
If Kade is correct and LSU does have 5 Friday night starters this year, the Tigers are going to be a handful. They're going to be a real handful. Because when I think Friday night starter, I think dude. Not the guy who pitches on Fridays. I think dude. And LSU's had some over the years. And there have been some years here and there where that guy never really materialized. But my concern with LSU is that they don't have any Friday night starters because they don't have anybody on this roster right now that has proven they can pitch in that spot at this level. That is not to say that guys can't develop immediately. Kade Anderson may be that guy, but they haven't proven it yet. And so that's kind of what I'm waiting for. But if Kade's right and there are 5 guys capable of that, I would feel really, really strongly about that. Kade Anderson also talked about what he learned from last year. If you'll recall, early in the season, 10 strikeout performances against Rice and against Southeastern, then a bumpy SEC go where they tried to give him some more extended outings. But then by the end of the season in the SEC championship game and the regional, he was back to that guy that was dominating and putting really high strikeout numbers up. So what did he learn as a true freshman?
Yeah, I think experience helped a lot. Obviously, I had some ups and downs last year, and that helped. And I think learning from those situations and I mean, I think picking up a slider has been a big help of mine, just continuing to pound the mitt and get in the zone a lot more often.
The slider is what we're told is the difference maker for Kade Anderson this year. Last year, he had that 93, 95 mile an hour fastball and still got that in the canister. Last year, he threw a slurvy breaking ball, and he mentioned that yesterday and said, look, there was a point at the end of last year where it kind of started to click, but really not until the summer and into the fall did he really feel like he had command of that pitch and could throw it when and where he wanted to. And that's a big difference. He also talked about the fact that he showed up to campus in the 160s and is now pushing 200 pounds. You're talking about 25 extra pounds to put on a young man who was already throwing 94 miles an hour. He's going to be a more dynamic pitcher this year than he was last year. But that LSU's had plenty of dynamic guys that couldn't handle things on the weekend. It's about a mentality, and then it's about, furthermore, executing pitches. And that's what he's going to have to do. He should blow Purdue Fort Wayne away tomorrow. I mean, that's not a good baseball team. I've gone through briefly some of their statistics. They've got one guy who had a nice year last year. Everybody else that was decent on their team last year is gone. He ought to mow him down pretty quickly. You're not going to learn a ton about Kade Anderson tomorrow, but you'd like to see those velocity readings where they need to be, and you'd like to see those breaking balls thrown and executed where they need to be located. And so that's an important thing for him, and hopefully he's taken that from last year into this year. And the last one was taking on a leadership role as what is now the Friday night starter, at least for week number 1.
Yeah, I think being the Friday night starter, I think it puts yourself in that kind of situation already. But I think that I can only pitch probably 6 or 7 innings on the weekend, and we got a lot of innings ahead of us. So I think that bringing those other guys along will ultimately benefit me and benefit the team as well.
I just can't tell you how important it is to have that dude at the front of the rotation who can get you off to a start in the SEC, who can pitch the biggest spot in the regional, can pitch game 1 of a super, can get you off to a good start in Omaha. Having that guy just changes the complexion of a team. It changes when you've got Aaron Nola, when you've got Alex Lang. It just changes things. It changes things when you've got Paul Skeens. And I think that there are some guys who have been in that role over time that haven't necessarily been to that level, and that makes life more difficult. And Kade Anderson's development and whether or not he can handle this role is just massive. We've seen in recent years Caleb Gilbert go out there and be the Friday night guy, and that just didn't really work out. And then we've seen a couple of years ago Blake Money go out there, and that didn't work out. And when you are playing from behind in that spot, and you've got to go to Mikhail Hilliard, who, man, God bless him, he did a great job for the talent that God gave him, which was a fastball in the mid-80s at times and a big old looping breaking ball. Like, that's, LSU did what they could with him, but that's just not what it looks like when you've got the other guys that I routed off. When you got Gosman or Renato or Lang or Nola, it's just a different deal. And Kade Anderson has stuff that suggests he could be that guy. His stuff is every bit as good as Ryan Prager's at Texas A&M. He throws harder than Ryan Prager. His breaking ball spins just as much. He's not as old, and his command's not nearly as good. And Ryan Prager was just a second-round pick that didn't sign. But he's thought of as one of the top pitchers in the Southeastern Conference. Like, he doesn't look like Hagen Smith throwing 99 from last year, but he's got stuff that profiles as a number 1. It's just a matter of whether or not he can execute it and handle that workload. And Jay Johnson was asked yesterday, why he went with Kade Anderson. And the back end of this soundbite is, maybe a little bit of hyperbole, but it's powerful.
He's obviously really talented. I think it would have been a hard get to college, had he not got hurt in high school and had that injury. But I think the story is what he did from the end of last season. He finished the season great, in the postseason, SEC tournament and NCAA tournament, and then really devoted himself in the weight room over the summertime, transformed his body, elevated the pitchability. Coach Eski's done a really good job with him. It's not surprised that pairing of Coach Eski and Kade has gone well. Whoever you kind of open with and who pitches at the end of the game, you have to really trust the makeup of that pitcher, and I trust him with my life. He's one of the leaders on the team. If I really needed to get something done, I would go to him.
Again, maybe a little hyperbole at this point. He's pitching the baseball game tomorrow, not necessarily a life and death situation, but Trust is a big deal to Jay Johnson, and he certainly trusts Kade Anderson. And so we'll kind of put this to bed with this. My confidence level in Kade Anderson, like my confidence level in Alex Lang going into 2016 and 2017 after 2015 when he went 13-0 was a 10. Like, I already know the guy can do it. He did it in the SEC as a true freshman. He did it in the regional, did it in the super regional. Super regional didn't go as well that year. But he did it. The super did go well. It didn't go as well his sophomore year when Coastal got him. But junior year, they went to the College World Series final. My confidence in him was a 10. My confidence in Aaron Nola going into 2014 after he had been the National Pitcher of the Year as a sophomore was a 10. My confidence level in Paul Skeens going into opening day was probably somewhere around a 7, and that was stupid because I didn't know how good he was, but I hadn't seen it yet. And my confidence level in Kade Anderson is about a 7. That is not to say he's going to jump to a Skeens level 10. But if we come back and circle back around to this and in late April, after he's pitched 5 SEC games, I'm still at a 7 or 8, LSU's going to be in good shape. If he's lost his job and they're still shuffling things in the front of that rotation, like happened with Blake Money and Caleb Gilbert and some of those guys, well, you may be in trouble because sending an inferior arm out there on Fridays against some of the monsters that can present themselves in the league is an issue. And if you're trying to face Gabe Gackle and Ryan Prager and Liam Peterson at Florida and some of these guys in the SEC, and you don't have an alpha, like, you're going to play from behind a lot of weekends, and that's not a comfortable place to be in. So he's a big, big piece to what LSU's trying to get done this year. He's got the ability, hasn't proven it over the course of a season. It starts tomorrow. And I have no reason to believe he won't go out there and dominate. Now, Thatcher Hurd did not last year. He started the season opener, and he did not dominate. Now, Thatcher showed up in the SEC tournament and was huge, and showed up in the regional and was monstrous, and we don't even have to talk about what he did in the College World Series final, and he'll be in the folklore around here for a long time because of that outing against Florida. But you sent him out there as an unproven weekend arm in the SEC, and it didn't work out last year. We'll see if Kade Anderson is that dude. Jay Johnson says to trust him with his life. Kade Anderson says he's ready to do this, and he's transformed his body, and he's a better pitcher than he was last year. We'll see that starting tomorrow, 23 hours and 15 minutes from right now. All right, we'll take one more time out, come back, and close it out. It's a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carver and his team, fantastic to work with. If you're a business owner and I say EPL insurance, do you know what that is? Confidently, do you know what it covers? If I say cyber breach, do you know how expensive that can be, what your limit should be on your cyber policy? Do you know what your umbrella limit should be based on the number of vehicles you've got out on the road and what your scope of business is? What about directors and officers insurance? Do you need that? Are you on a board? You need to protect your personal assets? Like, if I'm saying some of these things and you're like, I'm not really sure about that, but you're paying a lot for insurance, you should know about that. And if you have the Highland Insurance Group as your broker, you will. They're an independent agent. They've got dozens of markets that they can place your commercial insurance in, and you'll be protected. They're not going to be a silver bullet where they knock 20% off your premium. That's not realistic in this market. But they can make sure that your coverage is placed in the right place at an appropriate price. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Jonathan Carver and his team right here in Baton Rouge. They can service your insurance needs statewide. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Find them online at HighlandIG.com.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Join Hunt Palmer live from the box tomorrow as we celebrate opening day for LSU baseball. Come out and watch a special edition of the Hunt Palmer Show from noon to 2 p.m. inside Fan Fest presented by Powerade as the Tigers prepare to open the 2025 season against Purdue Fort Wayne. It's opening day at the box with 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and Citizens Bank and Trust want to help cover your car payments. It's a $5,000 grand prize with a bonus chance to win free car washes from Benny's Car Wash for 6 months. We're also letting you earn extra entries by subscribing to our LouisianaSports.net daily newsletter. To sign up, visit 1045ESPN.com.
Beck mentioned that newsletter that can be in your inbox every single day from LouisianaSports.net. Just an idea of what's right now on LouisianaSports.net. Got 5 takeaways from Kellen Moore's introductory press conference. That's Ross Jackson that has got that story up. I've got a column on Jawan Johnson moving to quarterback. Got a column also up on LSU's baseball lineup, talking about the first lineup being fun, but it's never the last lineup. We've also got news from LSU as they got a 4-star offensive line recruit in Bryson Martinez today. The Saints have requested a former LSU defensive coordinator Durante Jones potentially as the defensive coordinator. LSU Purdue Fort Wayne moved up due to weather. All that information, LSU baseball, LSU football, Saints football, it's all right there at LouisianaSports.net, and it's all free. So if you haven't checked it out, we certainly would appreciate it if you do. There are team tabs right there on the top. So if you are only interested in one of those teams I was talking about, you can pare it down to just that with LSU, the Saints, or SEC action. So it's all there at LouisianaSports.net. Got one more order of business here before we get on down the road and get you ready for a Friday edition from the box. That's Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it. All right, first one here. Oz Perlman, the Mentalist. Take it or leave it.
I mean, I'm taking it.
I'll take it.
I don't know. I've gotten into a rabbit hole with this guy, and it's now showing up in the algorithm.
Yep.
I gotta say, I've seen the how-to stuff on magicians and the sleight of hand and stuff. I can't figure out this at all. Not even a little bit. The game day bit where he just asked Nick Saban how long a field goal was. Nick Saban just said 34 yards, and he immediately took his jacket off, and he had a 34 on his chest. And then he parlayed that into McAfee and Reese Davis. picking Clemson and Georgia, and it was 34-3, and his shirt still said 34, and he had one of them draw a 3 of clubs. Like, I don't know how he does that. He was at the Super Bowl last week, and he just took one of the host's cell phones and unlocked it with the passcode. The guy freaked out and panicked. He had a deal with the Bills where he got Josh Allen to throw the ball to 2 different guys, and then he threw it to a third guy, and then the first 2 guys were the third guy's ATM code when you got their numbers together. I don't understand this. I do not get it at all. I've tried to think about there being ways where, depending on what the answer is a person gives you, you can kind of create that and adapt on the fly. It blows my brain that this guy can do it. He does it differently every time. It's not like the quick change folks who just do the same awesome thing every single time. This is a guy that's just reading people's brains, and he does it on national TV live all the time, and I don't get it. I don't understand.
Yeah, I feel like if you really, really wanted to do a deep dive into this, you could probably find some people who know how these mentalist people actually do these things.
Well, they say you read facial expressions and all this kind of stuff, but I don't get how reading facial expressions means he gets Ed Oliver of the Bills to get up in front of the team and say he wanted, what would you do for your daughter's birthday? And he said, I would take her to Disney World. And then he cuts a football in half, and there's a Disney World logo and cake on the inside of it.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's not reading someone's facial expression.
Yeah. I don't know. I have never really looked into it before, but to me, it's not. I mean, I don't know. It's not like this guy's a superhero and he gets to read people's minds.
How do you get the passcode for the guy's cell phone?
I don't know.
Unless he saw him put it in, which could happen.
Yeah, it could have.
It could definitely happen.
Yeah.
But it blows my mind. I love it. I'm in the rabbit hole. It's in the algorithm. It pops up on Instagram all the time. If there's a new one, I'm so excited.
All right, next one here. I think I know what your answer is going to be for this. But there, I saw a post on Twitter at this. There's a golf club in Columbia, South Carolina. So maybe if you,
I'm not familiar with this.
No, you're probably not. But maybe if you happen to go to an LSU South Carolina game, you may check this club out because they now have single rider golf carts. So if you see the video, there's a video for it. I didn't have it pulled up, but anyways, it literally is just
absolutely take it.
Yeah, I mean,
Phenomenal.
Of course. I'm not surprised at all.
That is A+, 1,000 out of 1,000. Love it. I'm assuming it has a cup holder.
Yeah, of course. They're pretty high tech, it seems.
So yes, I mean, there's just people that walk on the golf course. I'm not a fan of you. I believe you're doing it the wrong way.
But Hunt,
we've gotten better.
You're actually wrong because that's just not correct. That's just not the case.
Mean?
Because if some people, Hunt, I know this is not you because first of all, you play about 7 rounds a year.
That's right.
And also, you never walk if you don't have to.
I walk at Cypress Point.
There are some people, Hunt, that actually view golf or use golf as an activity to get exercise.
No.
There are people that do that, Hunt. That is a thing. You're not not
slowing me down.
Okay. There are people that use golf as a
beer
exercise
drinking activity.
That's your opinion.
Get out there, knock down a few cold boys, make some bogeys, and get out of the way.
Okay, Hunt. All right.
That's golf.
All right. Next one here. The Tulane baseball team
saw this.
Revealed their new Mardi Gras uniforms they'll wear this season. Uniforms are take it or leave it.
I gotta say, I'm gonna be objective here. I'm gonna tell you how I actually feel. I don't really know. Because it's not Tulane's colors, but it is seasonal and it's a Mardi Gras twist and I'm from here. I don't like the V-neck without the buttons, which it is a V-neck. It's like a pullover. And the other piece to this is I love Tulane's baseball uniforms. I love the Pelicans on the bat. I love the white cleats. I think they look great. So as I put all the pieces together, although I don't think it's just a ridiculous uniform, I'm going to leave it.
Wow.
Leave it alone. It's a tepid take. It's not terrible. It's not terrible. And if they had ugly uniforms, if they were like Missouri, if they look like Missouri's baseball team, which just looks atrocious all the time, then this would be okay, that's better, so I'll take it. But Tulane has such great uniforms. to tarnish them in any way, I think is incorrect.
I think you have to know that you're definitely a minority here. Like,
of course,
it's
absolutely.
just been overwhelmingly
I saw
positive.
Steven Schock, who's hilarious, who's part of D1 Baseball, said that their uniforms were cleaner than the inside of a shampoo bottle.
Yeah,
is what I believe.
That's what he said.
was.
Yeah, and I agree with him. By the way,
Okay.
I think they're
Look,
incredible.
I don't think they're terrible. There are plenty of uniforms that I think are awful.
Oh yes, we know.
These are not though. These are not awful, but they look better traditionally. But look, Mardi Gras is important to New Orleans. Uptown squad. It's not that bad. All right, one last time, we'll let y'all know, just could not be more excited to get out to Alec Box Stadium tomorrow. If you are coming to the game, come by and see us at Fanfare just outside the box, just behind home plate. We'll be broadcasting from noon to 2, so if you're headed out there, listen to us on the way, and we'll get you in there and led up to first pitch. Should have a really good lineup of guests. Jamie Tutko, who's LSU's Director of Player Development, who stands right next to Jay Johnson the whole game, the whole season. We're expected to have Kramer Robertson, Antoine Duplantis out there as well. I think Alex Milazzo may make an appearance, so it should be a lot of fun tomorrow from noon to 2. Hope you'll lock us in. If you missed any of today's show, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Matt's going to drive you home. He is back from Houston. We're back tomorrow, same time, different place. We'll see you then for opening day on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary. For those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales service and